This is the theme of Setback, an interview with a hitman, applying the 7 stages of setback, select frames. So let's look at the 7 stages of setback, the definitions and what the stages suggest for a character's narrative history. And so we're going to look at both Viktor and Bethesda and maybe any other character that kind of comes to mind. So the following represent the 7 stages of setback explored within Overcoming Setback, my book, which will be available August 2021. So missed opportunity, punishment, pain, correction, recovery, restoration, and advanced. So advanced. So if you think about the common course analogy, if you failed a course, it's your missed opportunity, meaning that there's something in that course you did not learn, and so you have failed it, and now you're gonna have to take that course over again. If we were looking at a sample course like a math course, we all know it is common, universal, global knowledge that when you are solving a math problem, you have to show your work. You are never permitted just to put down an answer. You may have a scantron where you circle an answer on the scantron, but you are expected to couple that with showing your work. So if you fail to do that and the teacher decided to fail you because you didn't show how you arrived at the problem, at the solution rather, then that's your missed opportunity. So then the punishment would be to require you to take that course over. And there are certain courses that if you want that if you're going to graduate, you have to complete. And any of your core courses, English, science, history, math, you have to complete those courses to graduate, whether you are graduating from high school or college, or even trade school. Even trade school has core courses that you still have to take and complete in order to graduate. So then the punishment would be that you have to take that course over. And the pain is having to take that course over and learn everything that you were supposed to learn, while also taking new courses that have their own individual demands. It's an inconvenience. The pain is inconvenient. So then the correction would be to do the things that you were supposed to do, which is for every problem on every quiz, every test, every in-class activity, you have to show your work. Period. I remember an instructor grading assignments while we were in the teacher's lounge, and I noticed she was a math professor, and I noticed how when she was checking the students' work, she was checking their work line by line. And it's not like she gave them sort of like some grace if they missed a line, but she was sort of every line, it was either a check mark or an X. And I was so, fascinated. I teach English, so I check my students' work line by line as well in terms of their writing, but I just thought that was so fascinating that she was checking it line by line, and she was telling them that this line is incorrect, and so that if one line is incorrect, you're going to arrive at the wrong solution, right? So that correction is doing the things that you were supposed to do in the previous course now. Then recovery is recovering from bad thinking about how to set a goal, endure a goal, complete a goal, right? That one bad thinking could be, I'm just going to skip ahead. I don't need to do it the way that the teacher wants me to do it. I'm just going to skip and do what I'm going to do, and I can still put the answer down and pass the class, right? Or the bad thinking is, I don't really need an A in this course. I mean, I can do just fine with the passing grade, which is a C. Okay, that's kind of bad thinking, because then eventually it's going to affect your GPA. And we're still on the course analogy. Then restoration usually requires a mentor, someone to mentor you in your thinking, to sort of usher you towards advance. And advance is that forward and continuous movement. So you don't run a race just to get to the finish line and stop there. You're supposed to cross the finish line. That's why I say people oftentimes live in setback or they live in survivor's mode, and they have no vision for actually overcoming. So these are the 7 stages of setback using a course analogy, and now we're going to look at it in terms of the context of the film. So the very first stage of setback, as you know, is a missed opportunity. And so now we're going to apply the 7 stages of setback to the film. So to miss something is to fail to notice, hear, or understand something that was crucial for you to know. And that is essentially, we have all said, man, I missed that. I can't believe I missed that. I can't believe I ignored that warning, right? So I consider that a missed opportunity. So in terms of the film, the narrative histories of the film, what was Viktor's missed opportunity? What was Bethesda's missed opportunity? What was the writer's, director's missed opportunity? And then how does the writer-director use missed opportunity? And remember, the writer-director is not using the stages of setback or the theme of setback in the film. He or she is just writing the film. And in this case, Perry Bandal is both the writer and director for this film. But I am applying the theme of setback, and I'm calling attention to those areas where I feel like the writer-director is using missed opportunity. So let's look at it. In terms of Viktor, I feel like the obvious missed opportunity for Viktor is he didn't attend school. We don't see Viktor and his friends in the courtyard attending any school. Now, we don't know if it's summertime or something like that, but we definitely don't see them attending school. Instead, he chose to join the mob. So that's going to be an obvious missed opportunity because he's not heeding the warnings in the sense that his father borrowed some money from the mob and look what they did to him. He's standing outside that door looking at them beat up his father and slap his mother, and that alone should be enough warning, okay, I should not join the mob. Even his father didn't join the mob, right? Because if he did, we would have seen him assassinate someone. So not attending school, choosing to join the mob is basically missing those obvious warning signs. Viktor didn't surveil Bethesda. Instead, he took Bethesda at her word. And mainly he took her at her emotions, right? That this person coming in to the restaurant, sitting down, and something is happening to her at the back of the restaurant, and then somehow they get into a relationship. He didn't surveil her. That's his pattern. That's his standard. No, she's not necessarily an assassination target. But when he goes and finds out that she's pregnant, and then he puts the gun to her head, it's a little too late now, right? And so there's no sense in having some kind of skepticism or some kind of fear of her or some suspicion of her. It's too late. You've impregnated her. So his missed opportunity was in not surveilling her and also taking her emotions at face value. Sure, if a woman has been attacked, we automatically assume that we should go in and try to help that person and rescue that person. But there are situations where a woman is setting up a man to be attacked or to be killed. There have been news reports of a woman luring a man to a destination only for her boyfriend to be standing in the woods somewhere, come out, and then rob the man. And so he took her at her emotions. Viktor also followed his emotions in his desire to rescue Bethesda. Rescuing Bethesda was not just that one moment in the kitchen. Rescuing Bethesda was that whole step-by-step process till about 6 months and some months after that, where he's following his emotions. He's not thinking logically. The moment called for logic. It didn't call for emotions. Well, actually, every moment when he is operating as an assassin, and he's really never not operating as an assassin. He's not taking breaks, he's not taking vacations, he's always an assassin. So that means if he's always an assassin, he's always on point, he's always sober, he's always mindful of his surroundings, he's always critical of the people that he engaged. Who are these people? What sort of purpose are they going to serve in my life? So he I feel like he followed his emotions. He did not use the logical thinking of his brain when it came to Bethesda. Okay, so with Bethesda, her missed opportunity is, of course, she doesn't forgive Viktor. Both Viktor and Bethesda are kids. They are both being used by the same system. And so, yes, he kills her parents, but he's in the language of all the other mobbing forces, he had no other choice but to do it. He had to do it. Either he do it or he's killed. That's what Sergei says to Viktor. And so she doesn't forgive Viktor. She doesn't have any compassion on him in the same way that they both come from the same neighborhood or from the same economic background or from the same economically depressed areas or whatever. And they're both being put to work. So she doesn't forgive him. Bethesda doesn't give herself an opportunity of sustaining a family. So she lost a family, sure, at Viktor's hands, but this would have been the opportunity for her and Viktor to create a family, not just have an unborn child, but birth the child and raise the child together and have a family together, leave the country, start a whole new life. So she really deprives herself of having, of giving herself a family again. And then Bethesda takes on her father's debt, but she had no choice, which is a strange thing. But I say it in this way because she was involuntarily forced to take on her father's debt by being put to work. But then she shifts her narrative when she recognizes her sister is too weak for the sexual appetites of men, and that she's strong enough to withstand. And she shifts her narrative when she says, I learned the ways of men. So then her missed opportunity would be to learn the ways of men, but not use it to her advantage in terms of taking vengeance, right? That learning the ways of men could have led to a multitude of things. It could have led to her becoming a cop. It could have led to her getting into politics or something like that. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity to really learn the ways of men. She's talking about, in my understanding, or in my way of thinking, she's talking about learning the ways of men in terms of sexually, and how they engage in business or whatever. And somewhere she learned about sometimes to bring a man to his knees, a simple bullet is not enough. So she heard that, but she gained a lot of intel from 10 years old, being put to work. She learned, she was moved up the system from 10 years old, 11, 12, 13 or whatever. And she learned a lot about that whole mob system that she could have taken instead of setting up Viktor to be killed. She could have learned all of that information and took it and told someone, became a cop, became a regulatory person. So that's what I feel like she missed her opportunity. So the writer-director misses opportunities to provide clarity on narrative histories between the characters. So there's a lot of gaps. The writer-director does not provide a clear line of development regarding how Bethesda sets up Viktor in terms of the steps. We get pieces of it. We get it in flashback, or we get it in a reverse sequence. We get a number of ways of how we find out, but it would have been better to give us a sort of line by line. It would have been interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see Bethesda go back into the same restaurant talk to the person in charge, get the tape from that person, and then navigate how that looks in terms of how she gives it to Alexi, or if she mails it to somebody or whatever. So there's some sort of gaps. We do not know if Bethesda's sister is still alive. So she's talking about her sister being too weak, but we don't really, is that a continued motivating factor for why she decides to set up Viktor and all of the parties involved? And then we are missing some background information on characters, and sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not necessary. But I do feel like there's some background characters that would be interesting. I mean, background information that would be interesting to know regarding certain characters. So that's your missed opportunity for Viktor, Bethesda, and then writer-director. So let's look at punishment. Punishment. The purpose of punishment is to address negative and or bad behavior. To punish is to inflict a penalty, discipline, and then of course correction. So what was Viktor's punishment? What was Bethesda's punishment? And then how does the writer-director use punishment and or punish characters? Now, the writer-director may not necessarily think punishment in mind, but characters are punished. And so it will be interesting to see how that works out. So Viktor is punished for being loyal. Strange enough, Franco is not the one punished. He's the one who messes up a drug deal, but he's not punished. Sure, his father is not going to kill him. His father is not going to scapegoat Franco. His father is not going to tell Sergey, no traces, I want you to kill my son. Of course not. But he doesn't punish him either. He sort of skates by, and we don't hear much more about Franco until Viktor goes into the cafe when he has to return back to his country, and he goes and talks to Trafficant, and he says to Trafficant that he's alive and he will stay that way based upon you. But other than that, Franco is not punished. It's Viktor who is punished. Viktor was doing his job as a mob enforcer, right? But then he has to be punished because Franco purposely messed up that drug deal. And so then Viktor is punished at the end of the film for his choices. So that one choice to join the mob catches up with him as an adult when Bethesda shoots him. So in the same way that you would say people who join gangs, who become criminals, who do a certain number of things, that it catches up with you. There's it's just as true. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? And so eventually your choice is going to catch up with you unless you allow yourself to go through a correction process and sort of repair your broken thinking and let someone mentor you, and then you advance from there. Other than that, Viktor is punished basically at the end of the film for his choices, because he's not the writer-director doesn't allow him to live, nor does Bethesda. And then Bethesda kills him because he killed her family. So that's basically a punishment. That is really her vengeance. That's her way of taking vengeance, but that's how he is also punished. So Bethesda, like all women in the film, are punished for being women. They are abused by men, which is, I know that sounds weird to say, but they are the ones who are beaten. Like I said with Franco messed up a major deal, sort of killed the son of a major boss. And why isn't he hit upside the head? Why isn't a belt taken to his back, right? Why isn't he reprimanded? Why isn't a gun put to his face? But it's all the women in the film who are punished just for being women, because you have the women who are standing up for their men, like Viktor's mom, and one of the foot soldiers slaps her, and then Viktor's father beats her in the back, right? And then you have Victor going in to collect money from that father, and it's the wife who actually sort of sides with Victor about the money he owes, but it's Victor who kills the wife, right? Leaving the two girls who then have to be put to work, and they are also abused and scarred. If you look at Bethesda's back, there's a narrative history to those scars. So it's all the women in the film who are actually punished. Bethesda facilitates punishment of Victor and all men involved. So any men that are connected to Victor killing her family, she facilitates the punishment of Victor and all those men involved. So then the writer-director allows women to be punished, but not men when they make bad choices. Trafficking does not punish his son. So that's, now we know it's kind of obvious that it is the prerogative of the writer-director to ensure that women are consistently punished within this film. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I said at the beginning, it's because they are women, because they are powerless. You don't see a woman in the film joining the mob to get power. You do see Bethesda at the end sort of operating as a pseudo assassin, right? Regaining her power, taking her power, but mainly women at the prerogative of the writer-director. These are the women who are being punished in the film. So let's look at pain. The pain reminds you that you have done something wrong. You have made the wrong move, and you need to undergo a process to let the pain ride itself out until the fever breaks. So what pain did Victor experience? What pain did Bethesda experience? How does the writer-director use pain? And again, he may not be using pain in a direct sense, but it is clear that characters are in some form of pain. So Victor numbs himself to the pain of a toxic family environment. So the only time that we see Victor, and we don't even get an image of him, we just get an image of his hand reaching out from one side of the frame and touching his mother's back. But the majority of his childhood is with a blank face. He doesn't say much. He doesn't voice much. He doesn't talk to his father. The toxic family environment, he just numbs himself to it. There's no need to sort of engage it or cry from it or anything like that. I don't remember us ever seeing him cry, Victor, as a child. And the only time that he does really cry is when Sergei is attempting to kill him. Other than that, there are some moments where his face gives off this idea that he may be crying, or there's some sort of tears about to form. And then I can't remember really if he cries when Bethesda shoots him. He's more shocked than anything, but he numbs himself to the pain of a toxic family environment as a child. He only begins feeling when he becomes an adult. And Victor experiences the pain of betrayal from Sergei and the mob. So this is a major pain from him. You can't say that he's experiencing pain when Bethesda shoots him, because he's too much in the shock of it for him to really experience pain. The bullet hitting his chest is going to be painful. It's obvious. But the pain from the betrayal, her betrayal, is not as clear initially. It would be clearer if he survived that bullet wound, and then you could see him lying up in a hospital bed, shifting himself in the same way that he turned to his side when his father was beating his mother, and then we could see the pain in his eyes and then tears forming. Or if she had let him live, or she didn't shoot him in such a way that he died, we could see the pain of him seeing his child playing on the playground, but not being able to engage the child, right? That would be like really, really true pain for him. But the shot that she gives him is too much of a shock for him to recognize it as pain, other than the feeling evoked from being shot, right? But we definitely see his face as pain when Sergei comes to kill him. But Bethesda experiences the pain of losing her family, but we only see her immediately feel that pain when they are shot and the men are taking her out of the apartment along with her sister. But when she's talking to the interviewer at the end of the movie, we don't see pain in her eyes. We see her presenting her argument, presenting her spiel, presenting her narrative history, and she is doing it as almost if she is giving testimony in court. There's pain behind her eyes, and we have to assume that she's feeling pain every time she looks at Viktor, whether she's at the table or whether she's in bed with him. But she experiences the pain of losing her family, but she's kind of numb to it as well. Bethesda lets pain guide her decision making. So that pain from losing her family has guided her decision making about taking vengeance and setting up Viktor, and then eventually killing Viktor. Writer-director reveals the pain of mob enforcers who feel compelled to stay in the system and kill people they have worked with. So Sergei to Viktor, Cesar to Viktor, and then likely Alexei to Viktor. And so that's why you hear them say, I had to do it. I had no other choice. It was either kill you or kill myself, right? Or they will kill me. So they feel compelled to stay in the very system that they chose, that they're sort of criticizing now, because they have gone on to get families, get a wife, and have kids, and they realize now that they don't want their own family and kids a part of that system. So they feel compelled to sell each other out so they can get out. That's what Lexi basically says to Viktor. Writer-director reveals the pain of enforcers who want to leave the mob and who will do anything to accomplish that goal, even if it means selling out a fellow comrade. And so that's where you see Alexei in the office basically say, if I felt like I had to sell you out in order for me to get out. That's why you have Viktor framing himself now as an outsider and telling the men in the kitchen enough, because he basically wants to get out. You also have Viktor letting the journalist go and letting Alexei go, right? Knowing that they could easily come back and reveal that Viktor is still alive and that he let them go. So this is, I just thought it was interesting that every mob enforcer had the same statement. So that lets you know they really did not want to be in the mob, but they felt like they were compelled to join it and stay in it. So now let's look at correction. So the purpose of correction is to get you back on the original path set for you, or you set for yourself. Correction is defined as the returning of something to its former place or condition. So was Viktor corrected? Was Bethesda corrected? Was there any other character corrected? And then how does the writer-director use correction? So let's look at Viktor. Viktor's decision as a child is corrected as an adult when Bethesda kills him. Strange enough, but Viktor is unable to make the clean break he might want, even if he does not voice it. So even though he started using sort of exiting language, he's not able, he sort of corrects himself in using that language, but he's not able to kind of overcome his setback fully, right? Because Bethesda kills him. So he's not really able to make the clean break that he might be considering. When he puts the gun in the drawer, I felt like it was his way of wanting to say it's time to put away childish things, because after all, he came in as a child, and he shot a gun as a child and moved and transitioned from childhood to adulthood using the gun as a solution. And so even if he was thinking, I don't want to do this anymore and I want out, and that when he's talking to Alexei, that we're basically the same, we want the same things, he's not able to get through the rest of the steps of the stages of setback. He can't move really into recovery or restoration or advance, right? In some ways, he might be able to move into recovery in terms of recovering from the bad thinking, but that's a process unto itself as well. So his that decision to choose to become a mob enforcer is basically corrected when Bethesda kills him. It is corrected as an adult, meaning that it should not have been the thing that he chose to do. And so now the universe, in a way, is basically correcting that decision. And so death is essentially that perpetual setback. He will never be able to come back alive and address the rest of his issues so that he overcomes setback for good. Viktor corrects the betrayal by killing the people who put a hit on him, so that includes trafficking, and we have to assume that he has taken Franco hostage, right? But when he first leaves, when Sergei first comes and tries to kill him, and then Viktor kills him in return, Viktor fakes his death. And when he fakes his death and leaves and travels to London, England, that's not actually resolving the problem. That's just putting things on hold, setting things back, and essentially, skipping ahead steps. The real issue, the real solution would have been to confront the people who were trying to put a hit on him. Now he corrects the betrayal by killing the people who put a hit on him, meaning that that was a course he kind of missed. And so now he had to come back and resolve the very thing that he ran away from. Viktor self-corrects by reframing himself as an outsider and fighting the system. So remember when he's fighting in the kitchen and he's hitting the man in the back, to me that's coming from both the side and the back to fight the very system that he's been enforcing. And so once he does that, whether he's trying to protect someone or not, it doesn't matter. It's beside the point. You're not supposed to be disloyal to the system, even though the system can be disloyal to you and put a hit out on you. So framing himself as an outsider, meaning that he no longer wants to be part of this system as a mob enforcer. Now, whether he decides to become something else, become his own mob boss, or just leave the system altogether, we don't know yet, right? And we definitely know that's not going to happen by the time Bethesda kills him. So Bethesda implicitly self-corrects her belief that all men are good. Instead, she learns the ways of men. So if she's saying that her sister was too weak to endure the sexual appetites of men and that she was stronger, then they're implicit in that is the idea that the men around you are going to not treat you wrong. We may not say that they're going to treat you right or treat you well, but we don't expect an older gentleman to take a 10-year-old and sexually rape her. We don't expect that, right? She would never have expected. She hasn't been exposed to that. So she is looking at the men through the lens of her own mother or her own father, who are both dead in the film, but she's looking at the world through their lens. and anyone they bring into the house. It's interesting too that her father doesn't answer the door when he's head of house, but of course he assigns that task to the mother. But it's interesting, had he been a true protector of his family, he would have opened the door, and then he would have been the kind of guard for the family and recognized who Viktor was and solve that problem immediately. But she self-corrects her belief that all men are good. Instead, she learns the ways of men. So the learning the ways of men is the opposite of what might be implied positively in that statement. Writer-director corrects Viktor by having him retake his course with the mob and finish what he started. So this time he can't fake his death again, right? But he has to confront the very mob that is out to kill him. And so out to completely destroy him. So that was his way. That's how I feel like the writer-director, in exposing Viktor and having the other exposing Viktor and having the other characters discover that he is still alive, he is forced to come back and readdress what he ran away from. And so in each instance, he confronts each character responsible for scapegoating him, putting a hit out on him until he gets to trafficking, and then he basically kills trafficking. So recovery. To recover is to return to a state of health, mind, and strength. Without soundness of mind, it would be difficult to accomplish or achieve anything. So did Viktor recover? Did Bethesda recover? How does the writer-director recover characters or use recovery? So Viktor recovers his reputation in returning to handle the people who betrayed him. So forced to come back and confront the people who initially put a hit out on him. He recovers his reputation as a mob enforcer and also as basically regaining power. You know, they had the power in the situation, and they doled out power to him as a mob enforcer, but they took that power away when they put a hit out on him. So he recovers his reputation in that way. Their bad thinking included scapegoating Viktor for Franco's mistake. So he moves himself out of the condition of being a scapegoat and takes his power back and recovers and shoots and kills them. Viktor doesn't get a chance to recover his life outside of the mob because Bethesda takes his life. And so recovery can be perceived in different ways. And so in this way, he doesn't get to the point where he can actually recover. Had he made it through that shot in the chest, he could possibly recover. But once he is dead, there is no opportunity to recover. Bethesda recovers the reputation of her family, albeit falsely, because her father still owed money that she pays involuntarily with her life and body. So she recovers her reputation of her family in a sense of being the only one left to make good on her own promise to set up and kill Viktor. Bethesda is used to pay her father's debt, while Viktor elects not to pay his father's debt. And so why that's significant? It's significant because although she is used to pay the father's debt, it doesn't really quite recover her, right? She's just being used. However, Viktor, in some ways, when he decides not to pay his father's debt, it is his way of kind of recovering himself. Strange statements, but it's involuntary. Bethesda doesn't recover from her thinking about vengeance. So vengeance is something that we don't know when she decided to take vengeance. We do know that she started to learn the dictates of men, learn the ways of men, and maybe on some level, vengeance is forming in her thinking, but she doesn't quite recover from it because she actually takes vengeance. Writer-director recovers the bad thinking of characters using "I had no other choice, I had to do it," right? And Trafficking says to Victor in the cafe, one cannot change one's nature. So you can't say that you had no choice because you still took the choice. You still made the choice to be a mob enforcer. You still made the choice to slip into Victor's apartment and kill him. And so the Trafficking statement, one cannot change one's nature, is sort of like a counter argument to those individuals who say, I had no other choice. Now, that is actually your nature. So you actually did have a choice. However, there is an attempt by Victor to change his nature by not killing the journalist or Alexei, letting them both go. So that reframing himself as an outsider is then exemplified in his new decision making about not killing Bethesda, not killing the journalist, not killing Alexei. Victor is willing to change. So that disputes the whole idea I had no other choice, because there is a willingness on his part to actually change and adopt a choice. Restoration. So restoration requires mentorship, and mentorship is predicated on learning from someone who has walked out the process. So how does Victor restore himself? How does Bethesda restore herself? Did the writer-director restore Victor? Did the writer-director restore Bethesda? And how does the writer-director use restoration? So Victor is personally restored. He mentors himself, framing himself as an outsider and using the word enough. So it wasn't every time that he shot someone previously to him using that word, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. He didn't even use that term when he heard his father hit his mom, beat his mom. So all the way up into the kitchen scene when he's trying to help Bethesda, it was never enough. He never used the term enough, right? And he had been exposed to a lot of different types of violence at multiple levels. But it isn't until he is willing to rescue Bethesda that he frames himself as an outsider, and that enough becomes part of his vocabulary. Victor restores the people he doesn't kill. So the reporter and the Alexa, meaning that they get a chance to get out. And Victor said to Alexei, if I have to come back here, I will kill you, right? So the reporter basically is a fake death, right? Leave this apartment, don't come back, you are essentially dead. And also Alexei. So he restores them back to their former, whatever their former condition was. He restores them by letting them go. Bethesda mentors herself in learning the ways of men, understanding their sexual appetites. So instead of being, say, the victim who is consistently raped, or feeling like a victim consistently raped, every rape or every sexual experience, she is strategizing in her head, learning the ways of men, understanding their sexual appetites. That's why she's able to take down Victor, because she learned the ways, the sexual appetites of men. So we don't see them having sex. We only see them in a bed, but he is clearly satisfied with her, and that's enough for her to keep him on the hook. And then Bethesda gives herself power in setting up Victor and the interviewer. And so she restores. She was powerless when she was a child, taken and put into service, and Victor killing her parents, meaning killing her covering, her protection. She was powerless. She was powerless throughout the experience of being raped from 10 years old. But in strategizing under the weight of men, she gives herself power. And then she focuses all of her attention on Victor and the interviewer. Writer-director restores Victor with personal power, especially in taking his life back. So when he makes the decision with the second boss, who wants to bring him into the fold, Victor says, "I can't risk it. He's not going to do it. I can't risk it." And so that is his way of making a personal decision not to continue in the mob, even if the language is still not there. He may be still searching for the exact language, but when he says to that mob boss, "I can't risk it," that to me begins like the stages towards him exiting this setback of choosing to become a mob enforcer as a child. Writer-director restores power to women and their plight in the film. Not all the women, but maybe Bethesda stands for all the women in the film when she is the one who sets up Victor and kills him in the end. So it's like, if you think about Bethesda as all of the women standing behind her, all of the women in the film who were abused standing behind her and shooting that gun at the same time, holding her up, holding her arm up and shooting that gun. And so the writer-director ends on the woman as powerful, shockingly, and shooting her aggressor. All right, so this is the last stage of setback. Advance. To advance is to move forward in a purposeful way and make or cause progress. Advancing is a forward and continuous movement. So did Victor advance? Did Bethesda advance? Does the writer, the director advance any other character? So Victor advances his understanding about the mob business, but not in keeping his life. So of course, he attended Sergei's university in a sense, right? And so he advances his understanding about the mob business so much to the point that he uses many of the tools that he learned with Sergei to kind of infiltrate the second mob business, find out where that Rafa the snitch was, bring him to that second mob boss, and then carry on from there. So it's like what he learned with Sergei was really more or less theory and practice. But then apart from Sergei, leaving the University of Sergei, he sort of implemented and applied that understanding in a new environment. And so that does represent some kind of advance based upon your initial development, how you endured, and then how you overcame. And then he loses access to family. So this means that he can't advance. Once he is shot in the chest and he dies, there is no advancement after that. But Bethesda advances in understanding, but not in keeping her life, meaning that she advances in understanding about the ways of men, but she doesn't really keep her life because she leaves herself without a family for herself or for her child. She's going to be the mother of her son, but is going to be, I believe, a strained existence because she's going to show this tape to her son about her father. And so this is going to poison her son against a father who is dead. So her life is not going to be as peaceful as she is suggesting. Writer-director advances the plot using setback. So throughout the film, this is the strategy of the writer-director, is to advance by using setback. That's why we see the character Victor going back and forth in flashback, or we see us Victor outlining his work as a mob enforcer and then returning to the interviewer, or we see sort of like the change from light to dark, right? So the writer-director is advancing the plot using setback. Writer-director advances the plot by having Bethesda overcome her setback. So that is important. That it is important. I don't really agree with her shooting Victor in the end because it's not a good idea to take vengeance. But to see her in a powerful position from the way we get her sitting on the floor on her knees with Victor holding the gun to her head, to her then as an adult standing in front of the camera shooting Victor, and all dolled up with her hair done and nice dress or whatever, and in a powerful position, does seem to sort of help us to see how she overcame her setback. And overcoming her setback is by way of learning the dictates of men, the ways of men. All right, like, subscribe, and visit. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for more discussions. You can visit my YouTube channel for further film analysis. It's Favors Film Analysis as the title of the channel. You can always send me an email and ask me a question, reginayfavors@yahoo.com. My Overcoming Setback 5 Keys for Entering and Exiting Correction book will become available around October 2021. I'm still doing some editing. The book does not focus on film analyses, but I use the content that I created for the book to support my my perceptions of setback used as a theme in select films. So when the book becomes available, I will send out a notification video, audio. Thank you very much for visiting the channel.